There is a car commercial recently that's going to be uh, around a lot, right? There's a certain genre of car commercials. Sometimes I get stupid things stuck in my head. I have to talk about them or else they'll just stay there. Here's how this car commercial typically goes. It starts on a house, typically a fairly large house, circle driveway. There in the circle driveway, there is a brand new car, usually a luxury edition, and on top of the car is an abnormally large bow. There's a lot of questions I have already about this. Like this is this what people do? Does anyone do this? Is this how it takes me a month to buy a car minimum? And to think that I could surprise Kristen with the purchase of a car is shocking. There's one variation of this car where instead of a house, they're like in this big, winter wonderland, and the, fiance or whatever, he whistles, and a puppy comes. And the puppy brings a ring. And then the woman whistles. She whistles? And a truck comes bounding over. I know I could surprise Kristen with a puppy. No rationale needed, right? But a car? A brand new car? It's about to become silly. Advertisers know that this is a season where we tend to hope. And they are going to relentlessly play on our hope wounds. And sometimes, if we're paying attention, we can realize that it just gets silly how much they're willing to take advantage of how we feel during this season. Christmas season, Advent season can be rough for a lot of us. We are about to be bombarded with images of comfortable families living closely connected lives. And in those moments, we can look around us and notice that someone's missing. We can look around us and take stock and feel, I wish I was closer to the people who are here. And the advertisers whisper to us an unvoiced question that our hope wounds ask. Their answers sound something like, if you buy this, your family can look like ours. If you buy this, you might be able to speak to that person again. If you buy this, you can experience restoration. We know it's not true. Shopper's high. It lasts a day maybe two. I don't know. For a luxury vehicle, maybe it lasts a week. But you're going to come down off the shopper's high. The situation that was there before is going to be the situation that remains. And we live with this ache, this disconnection ache, this injustice that we all know is there, and no matter what we do to try, remains there. So we cry out this holiday season in hopes for God's restoration and God's justice. Like Israel, wandering in the desert of Exodus, we live in the in-between time. We live in between God's promises uttered and God's promises delivered. Just like Mary and Elizabeth. Mary comes rushing to Elizabeth's house, and here two women stand in the entryway to Zechariah's house. Elizabeth, with her hair uncovered, gray. Uncovered because she's going about the work of her day. She's not expecting a visitor. She's doing her morning tasks. And now, 6 months pregnant, her work has slowed down. It's become more difficult. Mornings are really hard. Her ankles are swollen and she keeps bumping into things. But as frustrating as the difficult mornings are, as the pain increases, as she has to slow down to do the normal things, she hums to herself psalms of miraculous thanks. And whatever pain she's feeling, whatever discomfort she's feeling, is blunted by the joy growing within her. She is amazed at what God is doing. And then her young relative comes, runs 90 miles to the south alone on a whim with no plan. She comes to her and she enters Zechariah's house. And before she says a word, little John the Baptist growing in Elizabeth jumps for joy inside of Elizabeth. And this message is not lost on Elizabeth, the wise theologian that she is. She knows that like recognizes like. She knows the miracle dances upon miracle. Elizabeth looks at this young teenager. She takes in everything that she is. Her head is covered, the dust from the road on her face, her unwrinkled face. And she cries out in a loud voice, "Why has this happened to me? That the mother of my Lord comes to me? For as soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leapt for joy. And blessed is she who believed that her Lord would bring a fulfillment of all that he has spoken to her." And now, it's Mary's turn to speak. But Mary does not speak. Mary sings. She sings, "From the depths of all that I am, I cry out. From the core of who I can be and will be and all that I have been, hallelujah. For God has done miraculous things. He has looked with favor on the lowly state of his servant. Surely from now on, all generations will call me blessed. For the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name. Indeed, his mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his strong arm. And so far, in essence, Mary and Elizabeth agree. Mary has not added new content necessarily to what Elizabeth has said. A miracle is happening to me. God is doing unthinkable, unimaginable things, and those things are becoming day by day more and more of a reality. But like the child growing within her, Mary's song grows. Mary's song expands. She sings, "He has scattered the proud in the imaginations of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. He has come to the aid of his child Israel in remembrance of his mercy, according to the promise he made to our ancestors, to Abraham and to his descendants forever." And maybe Mary is just taking some artistic license. Maybe she's just a really young girl who's so excited by what God is doing that she has run 90 miles to her relative, and she's exuberant and expounding and saying things that are not yet true. Because if we're Elizabeth listening to this, we wouldn't blame her if she kind of looked at her askance and said, "God has taken the proud down from their thrones? God has filled the hungry? All of them?" We don't know what Elizabeth's reaction is, but we wouldn't blame her if she said, "What? When?" Because as the baby grows in Mary, She stays with Elizabeth and Zechariah for another 3 months. And as that time passes, as the baby grows, the evil King Herod still sits on the throne of Israel. Pilate is still the governor of Judea, and Herod ruthlessly, violently obeys Pilate's will. Pilate, who does not fear God or know God. There are plenty of hungry people still in Israel while the religious elite grow fat and wealthy. And so Mary is singing her song, and for half of it, it's true. But then for the other half, it's not yet. Mary and Elizabeth, they wait in this in-between time, not just between God's promises uttered through the angel Gabriel and God's promises delivered, but also God's promises uttered through Mary and God's promises delivered in her life, because these things haven't all happened yet. And so, how do we deal with hope that isn't here yet? Well, it's nice that God's changed things for Mary. It's nice that he's changed things for Elizabeth. But what about all those hungry folks in Israel? What about the lowly? Not just Mary. What do we do when God delivers half hope? How do we handle it when God only does half of what we've been waiting for? We try to do what we can to participate in God's mission of justice, to be bearers of hope. Here at Northside, we're pretty busy. We do a lot of good things. We see that there are hungry in our city, and every week, more than once a week, we pack up the loaves and fishes truck and we drive it down south, and hungry people are filled with good things. And we have the SAFE ministry that is addressing the foster care and orphan crisis in this city, because the lowly need to be lifted up. And we participate in short-term missions like Ciudad de Angeles that goes and cares for the orphans of Cozumel, Mexico, because we participate in God's mission. We consider on a local and a global scale how God is bringing these things to order. It's good for us to live as though it's a reality, but we know every time we load up the loaves and fishes truck, every time we participate in SAFE ministry things, that Mary's song is not yet fully true. God's justice is not yet fully here. Because actually, Mary's song imagines a day when San Antonio does not have a foster care and adoption crisis. Her song imagines a day when the loaves and fishes truck doesn't need to be packed up and loaded and driven south anymore because there are not hungry in our city. It imagines a day when orphanages across the world can close their doors because there are not orphans. And we know that's not here. We wait for Mary's song to become true because we know this Christmas season that there's still seats that are empty. We know. We live in the in-between reality. It's undeniable. We wait this Christmas season for everyone to start talking again, to be able to be close again. So Mary's song makes it sound like that's already happened. And so we have to ask, how does she speak like this? How does she say that? Well, just like the child inside of her, Mary's hope grows in real time with God's growing restoration. Mary is pregnant with a reality that will be delivered. Mary's pregnancy is a perfect metaphor for the way that God works. And when I say metaphor, I don't mean untrue. I mean always true. God always works this way. As God's Son becomes more and more of a reality in Mary, her hope becomes more real. So, in a way, her song makes perfect sense. God has already changed her life. He has already lifted her up. As God changes one life, God changes the whole world. God has already taken this unwed 14-year-old girl who is certainly experiencing the shame of an unwed pregnancy, and he's lifted her up. Does the world already, at that moment, recognize Mary as the mother of the once and forever eternal King of Israel? No, of course not. They just look at her and they see shame. But she knows. So what does she care? As she feels the baby grow to life and grow into greater reality within her, she knows it's a reality that's coming. In fact, it's as good as here. This great leveling that Mary sings about, it has a name, it has a word. I've been using the word already. It's a word that has been co-opted and has been used for other things, but before it was ever a political word, the term justice referred to God's will within creation. Justice just means that God's creation is functioning as God intended. So does this mean that the proud suffer? No. They're just brought low as the lowly are lifted up. Does this mean that those who are rich have everything taken away from them and that they must feel the punitive, overwhelming suffering that our poor people in San Antonio experience today? No. It just means that some will be taken from them and that the hungry will be given good things for once. This leveling is God's justice because inside of God's justice, everything thrives. All of creation grows. And so Mary imagines a world where there are no more orphanages. She imagines a San Antonio where there are not hungry people. She imagines God's reign as a time when King Jesus makes everyone thrive. Everyone has enough. For now, this congregation has to keep investing in those ministries because God's kingdom is growing in reality. We are pregnant with God's hope. We hold this growing reality within us and we participate in it because one day it will be delivered from us and it will take over and King Jesus will reign forever and ever. This holiday season, as we are bombarded with images of families that look more connected than our own, we have to resist the temptation to buy more things. We have to resist the temptation to become cynical. Choose instead to take a deep breath and sit for a moment in the discomfort of our in-betweenness. Sit for a moment in the discomfort of being pregnant with a hope that is growing but yet to be delivered. Breathe deeply in that moment and look to see if we can't tell how God is growing within you, how the justice of God is becoming a reality inside of you first. Because before King Jesus reigns forever and changes everything, first he changes Mary. First, he changes the church because God is growing inside of us. This is our hope-filled answer to the sadness and disconnection of this season. Not to deny it, not to tell folks that it's not really here and what they feel isn't really what they feel, but to join people and say, yeah, we feel it too. But guess what? Something's growing inside of me that I have to show you. Because that's the message of the church. Our message is not a carefully curated argument. It's not a set of proofs that show once and for all that Jesus' reign is undeniable. Our evangelism our message is the hope growing within us. That's what we have to share with the world. People tend to believe in King Jesus when they see him growing in another person. And so this is why this Christmas Eve, I want to tell you about something and invite you to participate in something and get excited about something. We have a special planned day for Christmas Eve, which is a Sunday this year. In the morning, we will have a special service that makes time for fellowship, because fellowship is one of, I think, everyone's favorite part of this church. We will take part in fellowship, worship, and communion, and a brief message. But we will also be hosting a special evening service at 5 p.m., to which we want you to invite your friends and neighbors and family members who do not yet belong to a church family. Specifically, we want you to reach out to those people who do not yet know of the growing hope that we have. As is our custom, the morning service will be a cappella worship. However, our evening service will be blended with some songs with tasteful instrumental accompaniment and other songs only a cappella. This is a special service and not a policy change. We are choosing to host a special blended service with those visitors in mind who did not grow up in a cappella only traditions. To host a blended service is a move towards hospitality. It's a move towards thinking of those who have barriers to walking into a church, and we want to remove some of those barriers. If this kind of worship is not your preference, we understand and appreciate that, and would not ask you to do anything that makes you uncomfortable, and we would just encourage you to come to the morning a cappella service. However, if you're comfortable, I am asking everyone to consider attending the evening service, because this time of year, people are prone to looking for miracles. They know the television commercials are only giving half answers to the questions they are asking. Your presence at this service, your hospitality and kindness and welcome could be someone's Christmas Eve miracle where they start believing in hope in King Jesus. The God growing within you could be the answer to the question their hearts have been asking. You could be the reason someone begins to hope in the growing reality of God's kingdom on earth. So this Christmas season, I want God to grow within us, for God to become a certain reality that this church delivers to the world. Like Mary, God's justice, God's desire for all of creation is growing within us. And we are bearers of hope to this city and to this world. As the worship team comes forward, receive this blessing. May the peace of our Lord Jesus Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you into the wilderness. May he protect you in the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at all the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again to these doors.